If we were to go back 5 years and you were to tell me that I'd be spending almost half my time riding e-bikes, I don't think I would have believed you. I remember being really impressed by the technology and everything they were capable of, but I didn't think they'd suit my lifestyle, yet here we are today. I'm Chris Opie, I'm a former professional cyclist and I'm now on a journey to explore all the different types of cycling that I didn't have a chance to do so when I was a pro. I've spoken before about the mental health issues that I faced after retiring from racing and how I eventually found my way back to loving riding my bike more than ever. And that includes e-bikes. I'm now back close to the family farm where it all began, riding some of the amazing roads and trails that I grew up on. I think it's fair to point out, if we go back to when I first tried an e-bike 9-10 years ago, whenever it was, the aesthetic of them was nowhere near what it is today. The system looked like an afterthought, like it was bolted onto a bike after the original bike had been designed, and with a load of budget bits strapped to it as well. It wasn't anywhere near the sort of e-bikes that we see today. So the very first time I rode an e-bike was at the bike show, I think it was, at the NEC, and they were proper rudimentary e-bikes. Some of them were even twist throttle, back before any real rules and regulations were made about them. And you had some of the country's best cyclists trying to race around without easing off the throttle, basically, going to the corner as fast as possible, leaning it right over. And I remember our coach saying at the time that he could just see absolute chaos and carnage unfolding in front of him, and the sort of fear for collarbones and wrists and things as we're heading towards the barriers was quite high up at the time. So if we skip forward to the present day, you only need to look at an e-bike now and compare it to an old one just to see how much they have advanced over recent years. They're almost indiscernible from a standard bike. Certainly the semi-e-bikes with the smaller batteries, they're lighter, they're as powerful as ever, meaning that you have all the thrills for fewer complications. You know, when you're out on a trail and you have to lift it over an obstacle, a gate, a stile, whatever it is, e-bikes are much more practical than they used to be. And I think it's that reason that I've started using them more. I think of my e-bikes as the ultimate smile machines. There's never a day where I can't jump on the e-bike and make myself smile. Imagine 8 o'clock in the evening, it's dark, it's cold, it's quite miserable, British winter. But you need that endorphin release, and riding a turbo trainer indoors doesn't always do it. Whereas on the e-bike, you can just throw on some normal clothing and you can have a real buzz in a very short amount of time. We all crave those endorphins to help us maintain our sanity in the winter. And it just makes you feel alive. You ride on days then when you perhaps wouldn't have ridden before, or you go out and you ride further than you might have ridden on any given day. And as the ride goes on, you probably feel better and better, meaning you're dropping down through the assistance levels, meaning that you're actually training quite hard. I've been really fortunate over recent years to ride lots of really beautiful bikes, lots of really good e-bikes as well. And the bike that I've most recently been riding is the Lapierre E-Crosshill, which when you look at it, looks really similar to the Crosshill that I was riding back in the summer. So the only real difference between the E-Crosshill and the Crosshill is that this bike has a rear hub motor and a battery hidden in the down tube, which means for me, my recovery rides are that much faster and that much more enjoyable going uphill at the same speed as I would on a hard ride. But more importantly, my hard rides are now a real challenge. I can take on climbs that I couldn't even consider on the normal gravel bike, because you're fighting for traction on a gravel bike. That's the limiting factor. And having that motor kind of plugs the gap between wheel spin, maintaining momentum, and actually clearing those technical challenging climbs and making it up to the top. And then one of my favourite features about modern e-bikes, like the Lapierre E-Crosshill, is that when you do want to go out and train on the road, having just done perhaps a little bit of gravel on the way, is that when you're above that assistance level with the frictionless motor, the half-weight battery pack, you're not being penalised like you were before. The bike isn't slow like I perhaps feared it would be. We're really lucky where we live and where we ride in Cornwall, but you never have to stray that far from a standard point-to-point route to find some really challenging technical climbs. Some of the mining valleys that we have here are absolutely stunning, the backdrops, the views, but the technicality of the climbs that you simply couldn't consider on a normal bike. And it's the same in the woods as well, where it's slippery, where it's wet. It just gets that much more exciting on an e-bike. These climbs are hard enough in the dry, but in the wet, as soon as you lose traction without the motor, there's no getting going again. Definitely makes it a bit easier. So I only have one problem with the whole e-bike category, and actually it has nothing to do with the bikes themselves. It's just the stigma that's attached to e-bikes. I think people view them as a form of cheating, but you can't look at e-bikes like that. It's a whole new discipline, a whole different category of riding. They are fantastic enablers of going out and doing things that you otherwise wouldn't, and I think that is the only way to look at these bikes. For example, at the weekend, I did a 300-kilometre all-night Audax, and now, just 36 hours later, I've been able to go out today, film on the e-bike at the same speed as normal. There's no way that would have been possible otherwise. My advice for anyone that's considering an e-bike is, number one, go out and try one. I cannot believe anyone could ride an e-bike and not thoroughly enjoy the experience. And then number two, buy a bike that you're going to ride daily where you live. Don't buy a bike based on a trip that you hope to make some point next summer. Buy one that you're going to get the most amount of use out of. And finally, e-bikes are great for training on. You don't always need to ride at the maximum assistance level, but equally if you do, you can still get your heart rate to its maximum level as well. You can take on so many more hills, so many more trails, so many more roads. They are just amazing tools.